you're in Maui during the height of humpback whale season and you just go for a swim in the ocean, typically you will hear the chorusing in the background of humpback whale song. Humpback whale males are the ones who sing.
The humpback whale song is kind of otherworldly because it combines these elements of low-frequency sounds together with these really high notes and all kinds of things sort of in between. And that's part of the reason what makes the song so interesting and unique, because you really get the sense that the whales are trying to kind of show off their range.
It's quite beautiful and melodic, and other than human language, it's been touted as one of the most complex vocalizations in the animal kingdom.
Surfacing.
Each year, approximately half of the North Pacific humpback whale population migrates roughly 3,000 miles from its feeding grounds in southeastern Alaska to its breeding grounds in Hawaii.
The majority of the whales will be here between January and March.
When they're in the breeding grounds, other than newborn calves that are feeding on their mother's milk, the whales are largely fasting.
So the amount of time that they can spend here is going to be dictated by the energy stores that they've built up over the summer.
While in the breeding grounds, the male whales perform their haunting song.
All the whales in Hawaii sing approximately the same song.
Based on genetics, now there's believed to be 14 distinct population segments of humpback whales around the world.
There are very large differences between the song that is produced, let's say here in the North Pacific, and what we have in the South Pacific, because those are entirely different populations. And those whales do not interact with each other. There's 3 or 4 other whales singing.
When the breeding season starts, the whales are singing the same song that they ended with at the previous season. The song evolves in certain ways over the course of a breeding season. There may be innovators in the singing community in Hawaii. It may be that there are whales from other breeding areas that go up to similar feeding grounds, and they've come down to the Hawaii breeding grounds and are bringing some changes in the song that the other males are adopting. And that combination leads to the song kind of evolving over the course of a season. So at the end of the season, when you record song, there are some slight differences that are very noticeable from the beginning of the season. If you record song over several years, you may hear that those small changes lead to large-scale changes.
There's still so much we don't understand, even just some very basic questions as to what the function of their song is, and there's just been a lot of debate about that.
How do scientists study humpback whale song? And what might it tell them about the fitness of an individual whale?
Major funding for this program was provided by the Batchelor Foundation, encouraging people to preserve and protect America's underwater resources, and by the William J. and Tina Rosenberg Foundation, the Do Unto Others Trust, and by the following.
Whales have long held a place in Hawaiian culture.
We all pay tribute to the whale. And one of the chants was Amakua, which is a guardian angel. So it talks about the whale being a guardian angel of a family. E nā maku mai ka leki a kala kao mai ka ho'okupu I ka alabai. Nā maku I ka hino aku I ka alo. E kia kao I ka lani, nuli ka lani, ka holo ka lani. E iau ko mākou. e nā kohola. E malama o ko e nā kohola. E ulu i kalani, e ulu konua, e ulu ka paaina o Hawaii nei. E ho mai ka iki, e ho mai kaika, e ho mai akamai, e ho mai mā pono, e ho mai papalua, e ho mai ka mana. It says that the whale exists everywhere in heaven. It has a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience, and it's very strong, and it takes care of us.
While historically, toothed whales have always played an important role in Hawaiian culture, today, humpback whales are clearly the most recognized whale species in Hawaii. Tourists come from far and wide to observe these majestic creatures.
They generate tens of millions of dollars in tourist interest.
The island's clear waters are also a great place for researchers to study the baleen whales.
We have several projects that we're currently engaged in, and one of them is trying to get a better handle on how song may function.
Scientists Adam Pack and Mark Lammers have been researching humpback whales for decades, often collaborating on different studies. To research whale song, the team works on the leeward side of Maui, inside the Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary. In the United States, humpback whales are given special protections under the Marine Mammal Protection Act.
Federal regulations mandate that people have to stay 100 yards away from whales.
We have specialized federal permits that allow us to do our research, which includes approaching closer than 100 yards.
Look up dive 100%. Okay, we have an animal up at 12 o'clock.
Is he still singing?
Okay, yeah, but barely. Animal 12 o'clock, how far away?
150 yards.
Okay.
Okay.
In order to be able to collect our data, we have to locate where the singer is. And the physics of underwater sound make it challenging because underwater sound travels 4.5 times faster than in air, which makes the wavelengths longer. So if we just stick our head in the water, we're not going to be able to tell you, where the sound is coming from. So what we do is we use a directional hydrophone system, which has effectively 2 receivers that are spaced at 4.5 times the spacing between our ears. And that allows us to kind of use those kind of amplitude differences that we would normally use in air to effectively resolve which direction the song is coming from.
Okay, right again.
And that allows us to then move closer to him.
We're interested in the characteristics of a humpback whale song itself. The song is complex, it's hierarchically organized.
So what you see here is the full cycle of the song. And each one of these little bright dots right here is representative of basically a song unit. So for example, here we have a certain type of unit that's repeated, and one phrase begins and ends about right here. Another one begins and ends approximately here. And then another one about over here, and then another one over here, and then the final one is right there. So you can see really the structure of how the units contribute to different types of phrases and how different phrases are organized into the themes that make up the entire song.
After each song cycle, which on average lasts between 10 to 18 minutes, the whale surfaces to breathe before resubmerging to start the song all over again. Once the animal dives back down, the team joins him in the water to collect their data.
Animals tend to sing kind of canted, about anywhere from about 45 to 60 degrees down.
Most often they're alone, sometimes they're singing while in association with other whales.
The humpback whale song is just in itself very beautiful, but when you get in the water with them and you're right next to a singer and you feel the tips of your fins and your lungs vibrating as a result, it definitely leaves a very strong impression on you.
It's humbling, really.
To document the behavior of the whale, Adam records video while in the water. He also uses the video to measure the size of the animal using a technique called videogrammetry, which he developed with his colleagues.
For that technique, you need to know the distance from the camera to the whale. And so I am continuously videotaping that whale, and I wait for the singer to straighten out. Then I have a high-frequency handheld sonar device, higher than the whales can hear. Basically, it's like a fish finder.
When activated, this sonar device makes a clicking sound while measuring the distance between the camera and the whale. This measurement displays on a small LCD screen, which Adam records with his video camera.
So when I'm back at our laboratory at UH Hilo and I'm watching video of this, I'll hear a click sound, and I know that's the moment I have to capture that frame on my computer, and then I'll basically measure the distance on the computer screen from the tip of the rostrum to the tip of the tail, and then there's an easy algorithm that we use to calculate the length of the whale.
While Adam captures video, Mark records the whale's song, so its acoustic characteristics can be analyzed later.
I will position myself towards the head of the animal and start making my recordings. And I also have a handheld dive sonar that I use to measure the distance that I'm at from the singing whale. And those measurements are then used for us to then be able to calculate the source level, so the amplitude that the whale is singing. We'll capture as much of the song as we can, and ideally, if we can, we'll capture multiple sequences of the song.
What we're interested in is whether that song of a particular singer carries information about that singer's fitness.
If we consider that all the whales are effectively trying to produce the same song, some are going to be inherently better at it, presumably, than others. And that's exactly what we're trying to quantify. It's just that range and that variability that exists among the whales. Are some whales truly better at producing song at both low and high frequencies? Are other whales maybe a little bit more limited in terms of the range that they can produce?
Are things like the loudness of the song, right, the amplitude of that song, is that related to larger body size? Would that represent a singer with high levels of testosterone?
We're interested in the testosterone levels because we know that when whales enter a reproductive state, those levels go up quite dramatically. Is the quality of the song related to their testosterone levels, which could then help them broadcast to their competitors and to their potential mates their willingness and their ability to compete vigorously?
To measure the testosterone levels, the experts need to collect a small blubber sample after they've completed their in-water data collection.
Adam will shoot a biopsy dart which collects a very small sample of blubber and skin using a hollow-tipped arrow that just bounces right off the whale, and then we go and collect that.
At the end of each day, Adam works up the biopsy samples in a sterile work environment.
So here we have a small amount of blubber. There's the skin. And so we're going to send it up to our colleague up at University of Alaska Fairbanks, and they have a laboratory up there where they can do our steroid hormone analysis for us.
While Mark and Adam still need to collect more data to draw definitive conclusions about the correlations between a singer's hormone levels and its size and acoustic characteristics, they're already able to tease out some preliminary findings.
Larger whales may be able to produce somewhat louder songs. And we know that the larger a whale is, the more likely to win in a competition for a mate.
A number of hypotheses have been proposed over the years to understand the purpose of the humpback song.
From helping sort of stimulating females to come into estrus, to providing some sort of a homing beacon for migrating whales, none of them are necessarily mutually exclusive. From what we can tell, it is a display. When we see singers being joined by other whales, it almost always is by other males. We don't see females actively approaching singers, and so if other males are the ones that are really coming in and paying close attention to the song of the singer, it suggests that there's something in the quality of the song that they're homing in on and trying to sort of perceive.
It could benefit other males who may encounter the singer again, so they have some information so as not to engage this male in physical competition and perhaps get injured.
While Adam and Mark are busy collecting their data, other members of the research team make observations and take photographs of the animal's tail flukes and other distinguishing body parts. These images will be used later for photo identification.
And the fluke ID that we gather is important because our historical archive of humpback whale individual identification photographs dates back to 1976. It's one of the largest archives in the world of humpback whales. It contains some 23,000 images, or what we call observations, of over 7,000 individual whales. So it's a rich database.
Unique markings on the whale's tail flukes make it possible to distinguish between individuals.
One of the whales that we came across yesterday was a singer, and I was curious whether we had seen this whale before. So you can see that this is a whale that we call a 75% white, meaning 3/4 of the ventral surface of the tail fluke is white, and there are some markings like this scar. And so what I did was I took this photograph here, I'll just move it to the side, and then I started going through our catalog and we found a match. So you can see that this scar here, for example, is represented here. This big line here, starting out thick and getting thin, is represented here. This little white scar is here. This is from March 10th, 2019, the new photograph, and this is February 20th, 2006. So that represents a 14-year span, and if we continue to go back in the catalog, we can begin to start tracing the full life history of this whale as it's been seen in Hawaii, which is incredible to trace that life history. And it makes you fall in love with these animals. And as a scientist, it makes me want to learn more about them so that I could then teach about them to others so they care about them.
There's our white-pecked animal ahead of us, 12 o'clock, 50 yards.
Unlike other whale species, humpbacks do not stay together in permanent pods, but instead associate in various temporary social groupings.
They'll be together for anywhere from a few hours to maybe a couple of days or so at a time.
When you're in the breeding grounds, one of the most common pod types that you'll see are mothers with newborn calves. Often you'll see a pair of whales, and most often that pair is composed of a male and a female. Females without calves are very coveted. They're prized by males.
The competitive pod is where you have a female that has multiple males that are trying to effectively gain exclusive access to her. The whale that at that point has access to her we call the primary escort. And then you have multiple whales, usually in the periphery, who are the so-called secondary escorts. And some of them will become active challengers to the principal escorts.
He may do all these displays, right, to show his strengths. And so these include things like blocking behavior by the male closest to the female, the head lunge, or blowing a trail of bubbles from the blowhole, to more vigorous contest competition in which the male will go chase a secondary escort, or will go and will strike it hard with its body or its tail flukes, sometimes causing injury, blood.
These are all efforts by the male to effectively kind of discourage other males from coming in and trying to dislodge him from his position with the female. So these displays, whether they be these sort of physical displays that we observe or the song, may be ways that competitors use to sort of gauge each other and to determine whether it's really worth it to go in and try to take that other whale on physically.
Keep your eyes open now, though. Okay, I've got starboard beam.
Port beam.
To further study the various pod types and behaviors, the experts also place acoustic suction cup tags on whales.
We have to get quite close to the whale.
This is good speed. This is good speed. Let's see if he takes a couple of breaths.
And And then we have to reach out with a long pole to actually physically attach the tag to the whale. The whole tagging process is both exhilarating and also fairly stressful.
Whale right here and a whale up ahead. Second whale is closer to the surface. Stand by. Wait, he's turning.
So once the tag is successfully on, as you can imagine, the first thing that happens is there's a big cheer.
Yes.
Tag on.
Good job.
The next step is to follow the whale with the tag and keep up with the tag, because it's an expensive tag and we don't want to lose it. We typically only get a glimpse of the whales while they're at the surface, so we can only really see behaviorally what they're doing when they're within our visual view. But the tag has specialized sensors that actually measure the motion of the whale, so we can look at the diving pattern, but also how the whale is moving through the water. It has what are called triaxial accelerometers, which measure the whale's movement in 3 dimensions.
And then along with all of that are the acoustics. What are the sounds that are produced? What's their nature? What's their frequency? How loud are they? And when are they produced? Are they produced as a whale is moving rapidly through the water? Are they produced while the whale is diving? Or are they more frequent when the whale is resting or coming to the surface? It appears that there's a wide variety of social sounds that these animals produce. That's fascinating.
The scientists closely follow a tagged whale using a VHF transmitter that can pick up sound signals from the tag when the whale is at the surface.
Oh, there's our whale.
We pick up some beeps. Once it goes back down, then it goes silent again. And at that point, we effectively kind of lose all control over what happens next. And that's the part that can get a little bit stressful, because the whale can then go wherever he or she decides to go. It can go into rough waters where we can't follow it. If the tag stays on for extended periods, for example, overnight, we can't continue to follow the whale. More often than not, though, the tag will stay on for a few hours.
That came off.
So let's stop here. You see it?
Okay, I don't see it.
Find us somebody
Hey,
for the tag.
hey.
It's right here. It's right here at 5 o'clock.
Okay, right here, right. We went right by it.
Once the tag falls off, it's designed so that it will sort of bob up and down in the water and expose the antenna, and then we get continuous beeps. And that is the cue that tells us, okay, the tag's fallen off the whale, now we have to go into recovery mode.
And of course, that's the gem right there, right? And we go back to the laboratory and then we download that data.
It's coming right here.
Another one in front of us, 12 o'clock.
Okay, let's try to pace this guy. We may want to go for the second whale right here. Stand by.
Wait, let him commit.
Stand by, stand by.
Okay, here we go.
He's committing.
Oh, you got it.
Tag on.
Tag on. Good job.
More tags will need to be deployed on different animals found in a variety of pod settings to answer some of the deeper questions. But the experts can already glean some information from the whales tagged so far.
One of the sort of data streams that we can look at from the tag is the animal's dive profile. The tag went on here at the beginning of the file, and the whale did some dives down to about 70 or 80 meters or so. At the time, this whale was still affiliated with another whale. And then the 2 whales separated, and our whale with the tag started to sing. He did that multiple cycles for a few hours at a time. And then later in the afternoon, he stopped singing and he started to affiliate with some other whales. And you can now see that the dive profile becomes much more erratic, and you see evidence of the animal interacting with other whales. And then at some point in the night, he went back to singing again. So this kind of gives us a glimpse of at least a portion of the animal's day and how much time this whale at least spent singing versus interacting with other whales. And it's this kind of information that to us is very interesting and useful, because as we collect more and more of these data, we can start to build kind of a picture of how these animals are spending their time. How much of their time do they have to spend resting versus actively engaged in competition with other whales?
Many mysteries remain. Humpback whales are charismatic animals that have long beguiled humans with their moving song and thrilling displays, including the dedicated scientists striving to unlock the secrets of these giant, ancient mariners.
Humpback whales are an integral part of the marine ecosystem. Because they are feeding on schooling fish as well as krill, they're what we call a sentinel species. So they are a reflection of the health of the oceans.
And so it's important that we not only understand their role in the ecosystem, but that we maintain healthy populations.
Malama kohola, please take care of the whale.
Major funding for this program was provided by the Batchelor Foundation, encouraging people to preserve and protect America's underwater resources, and by the William J. and Tina Rosenberg Foundation, the Do Unto Others Trust, and by the following.